Policeman's killing closes Port Moresby's Gordon's Market. Oro makes it as Milne struggles to settle in. And city cops wary of crime scare publicity.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening and welcome to Friday's news. Thanks for your company. The Gordon's Market and all nearby shops were forced to close this morning following the death of a young police officer last night. The police officer was stabbed twice by a bystander late yesterday evening. He was rushed to Port Moresby General Hospital's accidents and emergency section but died 5 hours later. The details on the type of weapon used in the killing was not released, but EMTV News understands that investigations into the killing is underway.
In retaliation, police officers demolished the informal market section and blocked off all roads leading into Gordon's Market. While details of the incident are not clear at this stage, it is believed the officer was on his way home when he was stabbed at this bus stop. He died at 11:30 last night and his body was transported to funeral home early this morning.
Situation that is going on at market. We as a command will be sitting down to strategize and look at some ways on which how we can make that market more safer and better place for all of us.
When EMTV arrived at the scene, this was what it looked like. All shops were closed. The traveling public and bus operators denied entry into the main bus stop and no one was allowed into the area. At 10 this morning, the main suspect was transported from Port Moresby General Hospital to Boroko Police Station by Hohola Police. Gordon's Police Station Commander Mark Monisakave has described the killing as uncalled for.
They do not want to change, and I really condemn that action which they took the law into their hands and just taking away the life of an innocent police officer.
The death of the police officer has increased the number of police officers attacked at Gordon's Market alone to 6 in the last 3 months. The market will remain closed for an indefinite period and market vendors are advised to sell their goods elsewhere. Taklagunga, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, Port Moresby residents living around the Gordon's Market area are in shock following the killing of a police officer yesterday. Since the killing occurred, bus stops, shops and the market were shut down by police. This morning, PMV buses used the Unagi Oval as a temporary bus stop for city residents. The death of the police officer comes after a string of attacks on police officers in the nation's capital in the past 5 weeks.
The stabbing and death of the police officer yesterday afternoon at the Gordon's Market has caused serious problems for city residents. While the police have taken control of the situation with the closure of the market and its bus stops, this morning was a struggle for city residents. City residents who commute by public transportation were forced to walk to Unagi Oval to get on PMV buses that have used the Oval as a temporary bus stop. As the city resident explained, this morning was hectic. Some city residents are in fear after seeing what happened yesterday.
So that's why I'm all for it.
Gordon's Market is one of the major markets in the city. Every day, people as far as the Gulf province come to sell their goods. And with the closure of the market since yesterday, it has affected the business of small market vendors.
So market dun bagarap mi bladlo pani um dakage mi okata online long sambal mi blani lo market okata am shut down business too lost PMB plus around in bus number 2 mi blog lost now today now.
Meanwhile, police say they will continue to close the Gordon's Market and the bus stop for an indefinite period of time.
So you can see that a lot of people are not conducting the normal business. We would like to just assess the situation before we can think about reopening the market again and of course the business houses to open the shops again.
Stanley Ovett Jr., National EMTV News.
Today was the first time in the history for the Commonwealth Parliamentary Services staff to go on strike. With the introduction of a standalone pay structure, more than 300 staff have been degraded and given new positions in their divisions. They raised concerns to their backdated pay since January 2014, with less than what was initially approved by the Speaker of Parliament.
The incident started yesterday afternoon when these staff and officers realized that their salary payouts for their backdated payments were less and unbalanced throughout all divisions.
People are looking this plus something come through. So people are looking inside list payout, or some sampler all officers only kisim tribe more money than all Arab. Now, this play giving believe as a result, people come strike now.
The new pay structure was introduced recently for the parliamentary services staff as a benchmark to ensure fair pay increase for all positions. The Parliament Human Resource Department has shifted staff from one salary grade to another in recognition that their grade 1 level is said to be equivalent to public services grade 5. However, they raised complaints that they never formally received the new position and grade level, and it was unknown until yesterday afternoon when they checked the bank accounts for their fortnight. Some even served there for more than 10 to 30 years.
Mr. Ployer, Parliament 30 years. Na pay em same me look me go na me tired finish na me white garas. Me got 10 pla bubus. Me and pla Mary come 10 pla bubus. Now me stop. Monta so me go slide here, me look 1,000. Me Mary play horse race. 4K me so put him 1,000 me say kiss him, pay me 1,000. You tell them good pla money.
They petitioned the management of the parliamentary services not to manipulate the duties and powers of the service officers. They would also want to know what formula was used to calculate the backdated payment.
We want a total review again of this restructure. Restructure means new pay, new happiness for everyone. This country is facing economic growth. The government boasts 10% increase economy.
We should enjoy some
of
this
blessings of this economy growth.
Grand Chief Sir Michael Somare came out to calm the situation when he said he will talk to the Speaker, Tio Zureno, on their behalf.
Walk mistake, think. What if something is wrong by mistake? Now, Laramba, me go talk to the Speaker. Me like him by Ipla. He got all leader, play stop. Ipla talk Isina. Try and write him a resolution. Put him down, all thinking play on paper. Beyond by me talk to the Speaker, by Ipla, present him this la. When he may play Ipla.
Following the closed-door meeting, the acting clerk of Parliament, Mr. Denny Polly, assured them that he will look into the matter immediately. He's also hopeful for the budget session lockup to take place in time. Basina Tayama, National EMTV News.
Team Oro has received support from its 2 open members at the 11th hour for the 6th BSP PNG Games in Lae City. The team was on the verge of pulling out from the games, but this support now ensures their participation. Some Oro athletes have already arrived in Lae.
Team Oro can be rest assured its participation in the 6th PNG Games in Lae is financially secured. Support of 100,000 kina has come from the Sohe District JDBPC and 150,000 kina from the Ijivitari JDBPC. This funding of 250,000 kina will be budgeted to meet the team's expenses in Lae during the Games. The funding has come after the recent political upheaval in the province, but the Ijivitari Sports Coordinator Gil Yagoro has brushed aside any political affiliation. Also, Ijivitari MP David Arore has been appointed as Team Oro's patron, with Copeland Gewa as the general team manager. Both will join Team Oro on Sunday for the opening ceremony. Ijivitari Sports Coordinator Gil Yagoro says 250 athletes from the province will be taking part in the games in 9 different sporting codes. Oro has been consistent with its participation in the PNG Games to develop its sporting talents. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
A day before the opening of the PNG Games, and Team Milimbe is struggling to settle down. The team arrived yesterday and found that accommodation was not ready because payments weren't made. It comes as other teams settle into final preparations for the games beginning in a little under 24 hours.
The dormitories weren't ready because the organizing committee didn't make payments to the University of Technology. The Milne Bay provincial government had already made the payments to the PNG Games Committee.
That was the players actually started arriving as of yesterday, on Thursday.
Joshua Isai is responsible for the Milne Bay soccer team that won gold in the 2012 PNG Games in East New Britain. He explains the difficulty bringing a team expected to do well this year, but coming to find accommodation not ready.
All right, so as soon as we arrived at the Unitec campus, we realized that our accommodation was not ready because the institution themselves didn't get accommodation in order. So we were forced to be scattered.
Today, team members were still sweeping out dust from the dormitories. It comes as other provincial teams have settled and begun training for the upcoming games.
They've been instructed not to give key to anyone. So
PNG Unitec staff were responsive to the team today, allocating rooms for the athletes to settle and get prepared. It's understood that logistics will become a hassle for most teams, but for Team Milne Bay, this is the first and an embarrassment for the Games Committee. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Lae.
And in more news to come after the break, Bulolo MP renews his call for the release of DSIP funds, and Interoil founder Phil Mulacek back in business in the country. Stay with us for the details. Thanks for your company and welcome back to the news. Bulolo MP and Deputy Opposition Leader Sam Busill's call for the release of his DSIP funds is far from over. Earlier this week, he again made a public plea to the Finance Minister to release at least 8 million kina belonging to Bulolo District. On a personal note, the Deputy Opposition Leader says he has stopped arguing with the Finance Minister.
Earlier this week, Basil says he has had enough of arguing and expects the Finance Department to do the right thing.
I would not say more, but I expect the Minister to do the right thing.
Basil has gone to the extent of leading a protest march to Vulupindi House in Port Moresby to demand the release of its funding and also filed a court order against the Finance Department. Bulolo District is a district in struggle. Much of the people continue to face difficulties in road infrastructures and basic services. In recent months, Bulolo District commissioned several new infrastructures, such as footbridges, a hydropower station, and most recently, the district obtained a new plane, Spirit of Bulolo. Much of them were obtained on credit.
Last year, Bulolo District only received 9 million. This year, Bulolo District only received 3 million. So some members or many members got 10 million last year. We were minus 1 million. This year, most members in parliament, members in government received 7 million. Bulolo District only received 3 million.
In less than a week, the national government will hand down the 2015 national budget. Each of the 89 districts may see a significant increase to their district budget. But Basil says Bulolo District, including other members of the opposition, are still waiting for their outstanding DSIP funds. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Lae.
Former member for Karakuhiri, Paro Aihi, has blasted the national newspaper for what he claims as biased reporting. Mr. Aihi was responding to the media reports that he was evading his warrant of arrest and failed to appear in court earlier in the week. As the matter was before the Supreme Court, he alleges that the current MP has been assisting policemen to effect the warrant of his arrest.
He was calm and relaxed as Mr. Ahi clarified that he wasn't evading police from arresting him, as stated in the national newspaper recently.
Since the new member, Peter Riswaima, took office, he has been trying to criminalize this, right? There has been a court matter on this. It has been disposed of by a very high-profile judge of this land, and yet I am being pursued as if I'm a criminal who went around and gave money to individuals to secure their votes in the 2012 elections. That is not what I did. Now, I have taken out a petition against Peter Isoemo, the current member for Karukuhiri, over acts of bribery. Now, these are yet to be proven, but this is now in the Supreme Court level, and until that is disposed of, I think that the member should stop financing policemen.
Mr. Ahi labelled the report as defamatory and biased reporting, as he was never given the chance to tell his side of the story.
Is biased reporting, and I am very, very disappointed that the editor of the National newspaper did not contact me to get my side of the story. I want to make this call on the media in Papua New Guinea that it is vitally important to get the stories right, because what has been published yesterday actually encroaches on defamation of my character.
As the matter is before the Supreme Court, he says the whole report was pivoting the course of justice, and further stated that the current MP should stop funding police to effect the warrant of arrest. While attempts to get comments from Kairukuhiri MP Peter Iswaimo were unsuccessful, as he is currently overseas in Brisbane, Australia. Bridget Comatap, National EMTV News.
As Port Moresby prepares to host the Pacific Games next year, bad publicity may send the wrong signal to visiting countries. The string of crime, rape and murder cases in the nation's capital is increasing, and this could negatively affect the mindset of participating nations. NCD Metropolitan Superintendent Andy Bauer called on city residents to behave, saying police manpower is still below average.
As the 2015 Pacific Games approaches, the host city, Port Moresby, is now under the spotlight. Visiting Pacific countries are closely watching the events that are happening in Port Moresby leading up to the actual games in July next year. The string of bad publicity, including rape, murder and petty crimes, may have a negative impact on the turn-up of participating countries. The NCD Metropolitan Superintendent said in a media conference today that police manpower is below average and their presence cannot be seen everywhere to maintain law and order. Currently, the city has less than 600 police officers, but Mr. Bauer said it needs approximately 2,000 police officers to maintain law and order in Port Moresby.
Manpower is one of those biggest challenges that we have.
Mr. Bauer is appealing to city residents to behave and refrain from unethical behavior. Quinton Alomp, National EMTV News.
For the first time in PNG, doctors will be able to attain specialist training in rural medicine. This is part of an attempt by interested stakeholders to encourage doctors to return to the rural areas.
Dr. David Mills, lecturer of public health at the School of Medicine and president of the PNG Society of Rural and Remote Health, said while a majority of the population in the country live in the rural areas, there is very little to sometimes non-existent access to basic health care, let alone a doctor.
Where missionaries set them up, but the missionaries, of course, are no longer coming, and so in many cases the hospitals are now empty.
The medical faculty and its partners are taking a two-pronged approach in encouraging doctors to consider a career in rural areas by trying to induce interest through their rural block courses in their undergraduate programs, whilst offering a specialist postgraduate program in rural medicine.
We realised that, first of all, we had to raise the awareness about rural health, raise the interest in rural health, incentives, etc., etc. But the second feature was that we really realised that you actually had to train doctors specifically for this task. And the reason we got those clues was because we were having young doctors like Raymond and others who were very passionate about rural health, wanting to go out and serve their people. And they would try and go to these places and they were totally overwhelmed with the experience.
Dr. Raymond Saulep is currently in his 6th year of specialist training in rural medicine and is based out of the Lutheran Health Service in Wapenamanda, Enga Province.
So this training is actually a multi-skilled specialist training, which is something the university talked through it since about 2005, and surely then after probably 2 years, that was when it started taking its full effect in terms of becoming like a training in the university. So it's nothing new, it's been there, and so here in PNG it's just the name, it's called the Master's Medicine in Rural and Remote Health and Medicine. Yeah.
The idea to place doctors in rural Papua New Guinea is not a new concept. In fact, the original healthcare plan for PNG envisioned and supported doctors to be trained and be based in districts where the majority of the country's population live. Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
Phil Mulacek, founder of Interoil Corporation, has re-entered the resource sector in Papua New Guinea. Through PIE Corporation Holdings, Mulacek recently bought into Kina Petroleum through a 19.9% placement worth close to 40 million Kina. This week, Mr. Mulacek, together with Kina Petroleum Managing Director Richard Schroeder, were in the country to meet with government officials. Mulacek says his decision to return to the resource sector in the country is due to the confidence that now exists in PNG and is testament to the potential of Kina Petroleum.
Well, it's not just Kina, but my love for PNG. I mean, I've been here almost 25 years, so a lot of my heart's here, a lot of my friends. But Kina's got great assets. I've known Richard for almost 20 years, so I think between the two of us, we have found more hydrocarbons than any two that currently exist in PNG. So the combination of have a team between the two of us, I couldn't say no. So it was an honor to come in and join.
Phil's found more than I have.
Well, I don't know. I mean, between the two of us, we've done more than anybody. So it's a pleasure to work together.
And now we take a look at the finance news. The Kina closed unchanged at $0.394 in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.3865 $0.4397 Australian dollars, $0.3063 euro, and 44.25 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, coffee and copper closed higher, gold and cocoa closed lower. Crude oil and copper closed lower, while palm oil closed the day unchanged. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 40 points lower, the ASX closed at 12 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 10 points higher. And among stories coming up after the break on National EMTV News, the funeral today to farewell Dr. Chris Margin, a senior medical professional and the man who played a key role in Operation Open Heart. Stay with us for the details. Welcome back to the news. One of Papua New Guinea's pioneer medical professionals was farewelled today in Port Moresby. Dr. Christian Margin's funeral was held in front of hundreds at the Reverend Sioni Kami Memorial Church. Originally from Opiaret village in the Papuan province of Indonesia, Dr. Margin made PNG his home and gave a lifetime of service to health in the country.
After a lifetime of dedicated service to PNG as a medical specialist, Dr. Christian Margin was given a farewell today. Family, friends and former colleagues gathered to pay their last tributes to the late doctor. Some traveled from Indonesia to attend the funeral. Born on March 5, 1939, Dr. Margin first came to PNG as a Dutch subject with 13 others. Out of that group, he was one of 8 students sponsored and sent by the government of Dutch New Guinea to attend the Papua Medical College in Port Moresby. During his studies, Dr. Margin met Vagina Maware, a young nurse from the Central Province. They married in 1967. In 1977, Dr. Margin became a naturalized citizen. Next month, Dr. Margin and his wife would have celebrated together their 47th wedding anniversary. He had postgraduate anesthetic training at the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, Australia. He went on further to obtain a postgraduate diploma in anesthesiology from the University of the Philippines. He was appointed senior specialist anesthesiologist in 1977 and medical superintendent of Port Moresby General Hospital post-independent. He became the first PNG medical graduate ever appointed to these posts at the time. He spent 10 years in private practice before being recalled to POMGen in 1991 and eventually became the chief executive officer. Dr. Majan was instrumental in the life-saving Operation Open Heart program. He finally retired from public service in 2008. In addition to his professional responsibilities, he was also actively involved in the church. He was described as a dedicated hard worker, a humble person, and a role model. Dr. Majan passed away on November 2nd after a short but complicated illness. He was 75 years old. Dr. Majan is survived by his wife, 4 children, 16 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
Baya Zoo in the Morbaya district of the Western Highlands province is set to be re-established into a national park. Our crew visited the zoo and saw first-hand developments taking place to revive the national park in the Highlands region of Papua New Guinea. It's the first of its kind in the Highlands region.
Regardless of tribal fights in Baya, the zoo is intact as it was the focal point of attraction to the many tourists and investors to Western Highlands province, especially in Baya River.
One white man before him been managing Bariva DPI season. Just Bill. Emi Tokyo one them Baya Council now leader Blombayana. One bla Papa leadership Blomi before him stop council do ik. One them killed group two bla kiss him this Baya River. Baya Zoo come inside long yeah.
Mr. Tam added that the extinction of Baya Zoo was the result of misunderstanding between the Western Highlands provincial government and the national government.
This is a MOU memorandum of understanding to play in the sunny. Also, in the time government, provincial government, Western Highlands, in the Pandi money comes set. National government in the Pandi money comes set.
As part of the restoration efforts, local Member of Parliament Koi Trape and Western Highlands Governor Pius Winty has so far given assistance in funding. Mr. Mark Doa, coordinator for Baya Zoo restoration, said that locals are working around the clock to revive the zoo.
Now you look at Molbusi stop yet. Please run down, but me look at this island and stop yet.
The people have called on the Minister for Environment and Conservation, John Pundari, to help the current restoration efforts.
John Pundari, all this Environment Minister, must look sabiosem, block close to neighboring province of Mibla. Me like a members more money come because me been called office blame now me been put him to Tokyo concert finish. Now me like him learn one man all come inside look must kiss him in view of Mibla. Member now must come on district, must come on community na Mibla like him environment must come inside. Environment workman must come inside. Because some man also come inside na use Mibla na work him kind technique na.
Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News.
And that report concludes our news segment tonight, but do stay tuned. I'll bring you all the updates from the PNG Games, including the arrival of singing sensation Christine Anu. That's in True Guy Sports after the break.
True Guy Sports.
BSP PNG Games 2014. 1 days to go. Support your province.
Christina Anu arrived today for the 2014 6th BSP PNG Games opening ceremony on Sunday. Anu could not hide her delight to be part of the Games when we caught up with her at the airport while she was transiting to Lae City.
Australian singer and actress Christine Anu has landed in Papua New Guinea for the opening ceremony on Sunday. A very passionate and outspoken Anu was delighted to be part of the nation's major sporting event that stands in the name of unity as the Games come into the brim.
I think very diverse, but still cover everything that audiences in PNG really love to hear, music-wise. I hope people like my music anyway.
Anu gained popularity on her release My Island Home and made it clear to belt this number out, including the game's song.
I don't think I could ever leave PNG without singing My Island Home.
Her first album, Styling Up, went platinum, and with a position as spokeswoman for Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders, is undeniable on the role she will be playing in the opening ceremony.
From outside Papua New Guinea that can, help get the level of athleticism up higher. Be good to see that, in boxing and everywhere, because I can imagine, a lot of natural talent.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill is expected to be at the opening ceremony. Tickets for the grandstand are 50 kina, while the outer stand 10 kina per person. Tere Alex, National EMTV Sports.
And still on the games, the second set of Team East Civic athletes and officials arrived at Lae's Bugandi Secondary School today. Team East Civic has flown their youngest contingent to compete at the games. Many are in their 20s. MTV's Scholar Sengi reports from Lae.
Team East Civic was welcomed this morning by kundu drums and choruses at the Bugandi Secondary School. This will be home for the next 14 days. This is the second batch of Team East Civic athletes and officials.
We have the second batch have arrived in Lae, Morobe Province for the 6th PNG Games. We have a total of 239 that includes both athletes, officials, support staff. Athletes alone is almost 174 plus other management team.
Regardless of the challenges that they have faced along the way, Team East Civic's spirits remain high. The team will be participating in 11 sports. The team members are young and vibrant. With the hospitality that they have been given thus far, of their arrival and stay at Bugandi Secondary School, team manager Clarence Hukuha shared that the same favor be returned upon their stay.
I think generally Team East Civic for the 6th PNG Games, we are here to better our results from 2012. With the new administration of young, vibrant and people who want to do change, we are here to learn and work towards 2016 and 2018 for better Team East Civic.
Come game day on Monday, Team East Civic will put their best foot forward, not only to expose and build young talent, but raise their performance after finishing 13th in the 2012 PNG Games held in Kokopo. Scholar Sengi, National EMTV Sports, Lae.
Paralympian Anita Hamambi will be the flag bearer of Team East Civic at the 6th BSP PNG Games in Lae this Sunday. Anita won 2 gold and a bronze medal for East Civic at the 2012 PNG Games in Kokopo. She is confident and looks forward to raking more medals for Team East Civic in this year's PNG Games. MTV's Silva Sagawi has this report from Lae.
Hamambi is from Kubalia in Yanguru, East Civic Province. Despite being bound to a wheelchair in most of her life, she is a champion Paralympian. She represented East Civic Province in the last 3 PNG Games in Lae, Port Moresby and Kokopo in 2012.
I'm staff, some disability I'm winning. Some talk so one and away by me making and by me some standing let's let disability blame by me staff.
Anita's story is of hope for people with disabilities. It is a story of how a person like her can actively participate in sports to add value to their lives in the community. Her encouragement is for other disabled people to take on the challenge and face the greatest obstacles.
Only looking disability belong all now little all no got use more, all no got hope or kind of send only lose more locona blouse now stuff. Only got rights move around, come out now move around or same. Mibla now round now move around na pilalo or get an Arab province. Mila talk mila apili all parents plots like I know line man Mary same me now Mr. Mina like him all pass him all got rights move na around. Only no look at disability blow now to so all hopeless laram all stop na. All in day one in time all in day no got. Mibla got name na number 2 of province na country 2 one time.
She is confident to lead Team East Civic at the 6th PNG Games as the flag bearer for the opening ceremony. Anita will be taking part in the shot put, discus and javelin events
and she is confident of winning more medals for Team Isipik. Sylvester Gawi, National EMTV Sports, Leh.
Team Milimbay's soccer team, the MB Taipans, will be bringing their own flavour and style to the PNG Games when the matches begin on Monday. Having brought largely the same team that took gold in 2012 in Kokopo, Coach George Bukoya believes that the raw talent that he has in his group could make an impact for the soccer-loving province. Thoughts of back-to-back gold medals, however, have been put out of their minds as the team seeks to use the PNG Games as a platform to promote its players.
Our games in Kokopo, from what we've seen, Medang is not bad as well. And Arab has, a lot of raw talent, but they proved to be a team to be reckoned with in Kokopo. So we are expecting that they got better in time. But yes, we're really looking forward to meet Manus, mainly because we know they're a soccer-playing province, and also Morobe, with the home crowd backing them, they should give us a run for our money as well.
The PNG Games birth province, Eastern Highlands, is sending over 400 athletes to the PNG Games. They're also aiming for gold in 5 sporting codes. Among the athletes is PNG and South Pacific Games champion female bodybuilder, Misa Avefa. The team left Goroka for Leh on Tuesday.
About 494 athletes from Eastern Highlands will be participating in 17 codes at the 6th BSP PNG Games in Leh. The team was farewelled at a small gathering with members from business houses, district administrators, Team Eastern Highlands management and provincial government representatives. District Sports Authority Kevin Pocker said Team Eastern Highlands are sending their team to be in good sportsmanship with skills and knowledge to promote sports mechanisms and in also developing sports levels at district and the LLG.
Also, we would like to strive and identify and promote skills and knowledge of raw talents that are coming out from our districts, and then make them accessible to the national federation in this country. We'd also like to use sports as a mechanism.
Out of these 17 codes the Team Eastern Highlands is competing in, they're looking at getting gold in bodybuilding, powerlifting, weightlifting, boxing and kickboxing. But not to mention, they will also be coming in strong in sports like basketball, rugby nines, volleyball and soccer. Team Eastern Highlands was presented a cheque of 300,000 kina from the Governor's office by the First Secretary, Stephen Rere. Mr. Rere, in presenting the cheque, wished the team well and to do their best.
On behalf of the Governor, we go along team management. This la check balance belong 100,000 people are given first time. Long running training, na walking selection blah blah, na walking or something or some long initial time lo blah walk lo ready more players na all kind of some. Okay lo karafim arapla something now we blah give him 300,000. Go towards those 400,000 in assistance. So this la check now by me giving him go long. Director and team manager play lo. See play go down lo lay lo next week.
Team Eastern Highlands will also be ready to give challenges to provinces like NCD and East New Britain at these games. Eastern Highlands will also be bidding for the 2018 games to bring back the games to Goroka where it all started. Mai Koime, National EMTV Sports.
And Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Good to have you back with Trukai Sports. Tura the Kokomo is in Hela Province, spreading the game's message and sharing the game's experience. Tura met Hela Governor Anderson Agiru and his Provincial Assembly members yesterday, where he was formally welcomed in the province. In the midst of tribal fights in Hela, Tura carried the message of peace, unity and friendship, with the Hela people naming the mascot Inaka the Kokomo. Inaka is friend in the language. Tura has also paid a visit to Korobo Secondary School and Wabia in the Komo-Magarima district and made a quick stop at the game's official sponsors, BSP branch in Tari. On the way, Tura made lots of friends and stopped for a photo shoot. The mascot heads off to the Morobe province tomorrow for the PNG Games This will be Tour's last visit before he wraps up his country tour. The PNG Athletics Union has discovered a new potential sprint star in Miriam Penny. The 15-year-old hails from East New Britain and is based in Brisbane under the training of coach Vic Pascoe. Penny has clocked personal times at 100 and 200 metres in her triple jump events. The young star is part of the Queensland team to the Australian Championships in Adelaide, where she will be running in the 100 metres and be part of the relay team. Miriam has already qualified and is part of Team PNG Athletics squad for the 2015 Pacific Games next year. And True Crime Sports ends on that note. I'll bring you the weather details for the next 24 hours after the break. Stay with us.
True Crime Sports. True Crime Sports.
Looking at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in southern region, all centres fine except Poponeta to look forward to some showers. In Momase, a shower or two expected in Vanimore, a few showers in Wewak and Madang, and showers in Ley City. In the New Guinea Islands, cloudy weather for Lorengau, a few showers in Kimbe, Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And lastly, in the Highlands region, all centres fine but low cloud weather. Now, before we go, quickly recapping our main headlines tonight. Policeman's killing closes Port Moresby's Gordon's Market. Also, Ora makes it as Milne Bay struggles to settle in, and city cops wary of crime scare publicity. And that ends the news this Friday. From all of us here, I'm Tokana Hasavi. Thanks for your company. You take care and stay safe, and have a good weekend. Good night. PM accepts referral to Leadership Tribunal. Ebola detection points being set up. Accountants urged to lead from the front.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Saturday's news. Thanks for your company. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has been referred by the public prosecutor to face a leadership tribunal. The Prime Minister's referral yesterday afternoon was on his involvement in obtaining the controversial UBS loan to purchase shares in resources company Oil Search. In a media conference today, confident Mr. O'Neill told journalists he welcomes the public prosecutor's decision but denies any foul play was involved.
As usual, a confident Mr. O'Neill spoke to journalists today about his referral to a leadership tribunal. Yesterday afternoon, the public prosecutor delivered a letter informing Mr. O'Neill that they have requested the Chief Justice, Sir Salamo Injia, to appoint an independent tribunal to be set up. The tribunal will look into allegations of administrative and financial processes involved in obtaining the UBS loan to purchase shares in Oil Search. Mr. O'Neill, who is yet to be officially informed about the charges laid against him, said he welcomes the public prosecutor's decision, saying it will give him an opportunity to prove otherwise.
And in fact, I want to say here that we welcome his decision because it gives us an opportunity to go before the independent tribunal and the courts to determine the outcomes of these decisions based on real evidence that are going to be presented to the tribunal.
The Prime Minister said a judicial review of questions raised about this particular transaction is still before the Supreme Court. He maintains that the decision to borrow money from UBS has been done in the best interest of the country.
The allegations relate virtually to administrative and financial aspects, processing of the borrowings from the UBS loans in relation to the purchase of the oil sets, and that suggestions that we did not act in the best interest of the state, and that it was done in the interest of oil sets. We, as you know, deny that.
When asked whether he will step aside to face the tribunal, the Prime Minister said he will only do so if the tribunal finds him guilty and requests him to do so. Mr. O'Neill has raised concerns that few individuals have been obtaining confidential information from government departments earlier before public announcements are being made. He said an independent team will be set up to investigate such practices. In the meantime, the Prime Minister has assured the people that the 2015 national budget is ready to be tabled in Parliament next Tuesday. Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
Dr. Boris Pavlin, an American doctor with the World Health Organization, is in the country to work with the task force response team on Ebola. He has just returned from Liberia in West Africa and was quarantined in Australia before arriving in the country. In its fourth meeting yesterday, the National Technical Response Task Force on Ebola confirmed the construction of a detection facility at the Jackson's International Airport. A separate quarantine facility is yet to be confirmed. Although the chances of Ebola's importation into the country are still very low, precautionary measures have now been prioritized.
We're here to figure out exactly where the nurses are going to be stationed in coordination with the health quarantine officers, and where to set up the holding tent, which has been generously loaned to us from the Australian government for this purpose.
The Ebola Task Force, in its first meeting last month, released a draft of a national contingency plan for public health emergency and a traveller declaration form for foreign passengers. A document that asks if a passenger has been to one of the affected countries in West Africa in the last 21 days and if headaches and/or vomiting was experienced, including personal details.
But one of the reasons why we provide information to arriving passengers is they say, look, if you've been to West Africa, here's some information you take with you, and if you get sick, please call us. No, we don't expect the local healthcare infrastructure to be able to do that on its own. That's when we bring in the international support.
The construction will commence next week and will come from the 1 million kina funding allocated to the Ebola Task Force with support from international donors. So far, according to the World Health Organization statistics, 14,000 Ebola cases have been identified in West Africa and an estimated 5,000 deaths have now been recorded. Employers who have not submitted applications within the grace period for minimum wage exemption are required by law to pay 3 kina 20 toea per hour, retrospective to July 3, 2014. The Secretariat to the Tripartite Committee on Minimum Wage for the last 4 months has reviewed applications and has already made decisions on several applications.
The minimum wage of 3 kina 20 per hour was gazetted on July 3rd this year. It is applicable to all unskilled workers aged 16 years and above in formal employment in both the rural and urban areas who may or may not be represented by a registered industrial organization. Secretary for Labor, George Vaso, says employers were given ample time to apply for exemptions. Those employers who fail to submit their applications for exemptions must now comply to pay the minimum of 3 kina 20 per hour.
Those employers who have submitted applications within the grace period up to 10th of November 2014 are requested to immediately contact the Secretariat to the Tripartite Committee on the status of their submissions.
Both exemptions for partial payments of the minimum wage and base on the incapacity pay are dealt with by the Tripartite Committee, chaired by the Secretary for Labor and Industrial Relations or his delegate, comprising of representatives of the Employers Federation and Trade Union Congress. A total of 108 applications have been received by the committee for the agriculture sector, 41 applications were received. Decision was made on 29 applications, while 12 yet to be completed. Exemptions on incapacity to pay, the committee received 67 applications. Decision was made on 15, while 52 applications are still pending. Employers who have submitted their applications are to check with the Secretariat to the Tripartite Committee on the status of their submissions. Godwin Eki, National EMTV News.
The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center this afternoon issued warnings that a tsunami could hit parts of Indonesia and Japan, including Papua New Guinea. This follows an earthquake measuring up to 7.3 in magnitude, which struck 150 kilometers northwest of Indonesia at 1:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time today. An Indonesian meteorological agency has also issued early tsunami warnings to Indonesians. According to the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, tsunami waves are possible for coasts located within 300 kilometers from Indonesia. Papua New Guinea's paperless tertiary institution in Madang, the Divine Word University, is one of the recognized institutions offering public servants learning and development programs. Personnel Management Deputy Department Secretary John Carley told participants at the Madang workshop that training is vital for public servants to effectively carry out their calls of duties. The public service must be qualified and competent to implement the national government's goal of service delivery.
Mr. Kali told the Madang workshop that leadership within the public service sector is addressed through learning and development program. The new Public Service Management Act 2014 calls for performance, and it's important public servants are empowered with more training.
In the learning and development atmosphere, where we are addressing the leadership of the public service as well as improving the skills and competencies for the mass of the public service.
While urging more public servants to apply for external studies, same time challenge provincial governments to support and allow staff to enhance their knowledge and skills through competency-based training.
Programs are competency and work-based. That is, they come for short-term training, come back to your place and apply, and go back for training, go back and apply again. Very flexible arrangements. So don't fear about losing your staff, because
governors and open MPs were also challenged to provide more funds for public servants, training and development. This will restore people's confidence on the PNG public service.
You know, we put money aside to travel and all that, but we don't put money aside for our public servants to do development, learning and development programs. Let's send our public servants to be skilled and competent so we can change the face of the public service, we can change the culture.
Mr. Kali said regional training centers will be reopened to deliver programs with extension support to the autonomous Bougainville government. This allows public servants in the province and district to upskill their training. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News, Madang.
All members of parliament to undertake additional functions. I'll bring you that story and more coming up after the break. Stay with us. Good to have you back with the news. All members of parliament will now work in consultation with their provincial and district administrators. This is one of the additional functions of the Public Service Management Act 2014 highlighted at the Madang workshop today. MTV's Fabian Hakelitz files this report from Madang.
Public Service Management Act 2014 has additional functions that call for political bureau partnership between provincial and district administrators with the open MPs. Personnel Management Department Deputy Secretary Policy Thai Sanson, speaking on new appointment process and additional functions, said cooperation is important for service delivery to be realized. This is in addition to functions specified in Section 74(1) of the Organic Law on Provincial and Local Level Governments. The administrator is the chief advisor to the governor and Provincial Executive Council.
We need services to be delivered to our people, and for this to be realized, there has to be partnership, cooperation between all three parties, the PA, the DA, and the open member.
The district administrator is the chief advisor to the local level government responsible for planning and project development, supervising officers in the district.
Requires a revision to the job description of the DA. So please, DAs, you need to sit down with your provincial administrators to revise your job descriptions to take into account the new law.
Participants like Thomas Tumun, Simbu Governor, First Assistant Secretary, is happy the new law allows partnership between political heads and bureaucrats, but fears MPs might override powers within the provincial and district level.
I see that as a threat to the system that people will come in to make demands for those key positions of administrator of district administrators. But like I said, it's a new initiative. We'll see how far it goes. We'll try it.
Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News, Medang.
Chartered accountants have been challenged to be leaders and drivers in this time of economic boom. A wide range of speakers at the two-day annual conference spoke on the challenges and ways forward for the profession.
Over 1,000 chartered accountants gathered in Port Moresby for their annual conference. Under the theme, The Next Big Wave, What is on the Horizon?, the conference is aimed to equip its participants with information to ride this wave of economic boom in the country.
Our accountants are CPA members. They need to understand and be prepared to face challenges that are forthcoming. We want to see the CPAs be the forefront and be the decision makers to drive the economic activities that are happening within the country.
Mr. Beatty is also happy to note the involvement of public servants into the PNG Institute of Chartered Accountants this year.
So we would like to thank actually the public sector, and especially the Department of Finance, where they bring in, this year they bring in 100 people, 100 members of the public sector to join the CPA PNG. Previously, we had never had that opportunity or dialogue with the public sector.
The two-day conference ended yesterday with a gala dinner for the participants. Sarah Aupong, National MTV News.
On a related topic, chartered accountants have an important role to play in assisting the judiciary to carry out its duties. Chief Justice Sir Salamo India said this at the CPA conference in Port Moresby yesterday.
Speaker on day 2 of the CPA conference, the Chief Justice gave a judge's perspective on the future of PNG.
And as I'm looking into the future, as many of us are, in terms of what is on the offer in the horizon, I can see that there will be massive economic growth that will take place in the coming years, which will generate a large volume of civil and commercial cases that come in their own variety and in their own complexity.
Sir India said while the judiciary system has its own set of unique challenges, including a desperate need for new infrastructure, they continue to work in partnership with other professions to deliver quality service.
Judiciary and the accounting profession have a long history of relationship and partnership in working together to deliver quality justice in cases of a commercial and business nature that satisfies the expectation of court users, including investors.
Sarah Aupong, National MTV News.
Papua New Guinea will be showcasing its unique artifacts during the International Arts and Culture Exhibition in Germany in May next year. German Coordinator for Arts and Culture, Dr. Marian Clark, said this is an avenue to promote and create a market for PNG's artifacts. She announced this yesterday at the National Museum and Arts Gallery.
The Deutsch program will pave way for PNG artifacts to be recognized globally. Strack says artists make unseen wealth seen through different artistic works like painting, traditional songs, drama, sculpture design and many others. And through artifacts display, she believes people will foretell future by way of visualization to connect with nature.
This exhibition takes place in May in the Trans Gallery in Berlin. And we hope we can invite 2 artists from Papua New Guinea to come to Germany.
However, since PNG government was at stake in creating local markets to showcase our PNG artifacts, the Deutsch program provides an opportunity for our local artists to showcase some of our arts and culture overseas. A unique clay kundu from the Makam area in Morobe province told us so. It is one of unique PNG artifacts showcased during the exhibition. Eric Aurupma, National EMTV News.
And now to a report to take us into Trukai Sports tonight. As night falls over Lae City, work on the PNG Games has just begun. More than 10,000 athletes will be fed over a period of 2 weeks. Hundreds of buses have been called into action and hundreds of volunteers engaged to ensure the Games run smoothly. EMTV's Sylvester Gawi was at the Games venue this afternoon and files this report.
Rehearsals have just ended this afternoon with the engineering battalion taking the lead in a preview of what will happen tomorrow at the opening ceremony. In just less than 12 hours, the stadium will be filled with participants of the Games and officials. This is the biggest sporting and cultural event to be staged here at this stadium this year. Almost all provincial teams have arrived in Lae today in preparations for the opening ceremony. Team NCD, Central, Medang and other Highlands provinces were given a rousing welcome this afternoon on the way into the city. NCD Governor Pois Pakop was overwhelmed with the reception given to teams by host province Morobe.
This game is one event that unites our nation, especially our young people, and it's there for us to take as a platform for building a better future for our young people. So we've done our part, and I can see my brother is well prepared. He's done very well in hosting all the provinces. The concept of involving the villages and each of the villages welcoming a particular provincial team is a very good concept that we must emulate in the future games.
Police, defense force and security personnel have been deployed at all roads leading to the sporting venues. A massive crowd is expected to turn up tomorrow for the opening ceremony, which will feature sing-sing groups and live concert performances from Christian Hanu, Joe Kema and Keduman. EMTV has deployed one of the largest outside broadcast crews since the 1991 South Pacific Games. We will be broadcasting primarily at this venue, starting with the opening ceremony tomorrow. Sylvester Gawi, National EMTV News, Lae.
And stay tuned for more of the latest sporting updates of the 6th BSP PNG Games. That's coming up next.
Trukai Sports.
As athletes from around the country prepare for Monday's Games, tragedy has struck a senior official. The Games Tournament Director for softball, John Kelly, died last night in Lae. The cause of death has not yet been established. In his place, Moses Tolingling has been appointed as Tournament Director for softball during the Games. The autonomous region of Bougainville team arrived in the early hours of Saturday morning on the region's new flagship in the Chibu. Team Arab is confident in excelling in all their codes. Individual codes like kickboxing, taekwondo and boxing will be the codes to look out for at the 6th BSP PNG Games, as Team Arab is a potential threat to many of the other provincial teams.
Team Nairobi has arrived in Lae with full confidence, while there remains a general sense of confidence within the 502-man contingent. Team Nairobi is expecting to reel in medals within the individual code of boxing.
Boxing is an enormous fortune in Bougainville. We have been good with boxing all throughout the past years. We don't really fear anyone.
With a team of 18 boxers, 9 male and 9 female, under the expertise of former boxing reps, brothers Tony Abba and John Abba, the team has been in form over the last 10 months due to their consistency in preparations.
We have this fitness test, and our fitness test level is at 9, average of 10. So That means all our boxers are really fit at this moment, right? They're all young boxers, new boxers.
Simoso also said that this year's team has gone through a total reshuffling. As per their selection criteria, all athletes are under the age of 30 and have proven to be a strong team. Lorraine Genya, National EMTV Sports, Leh.
And that's all we have for True Kai Sports tonight. The weather details coming up next. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports. True.
A quick look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in Momase region. Leh, Madang and Vanimo to look forward to a few showers and a shower or two expected in Wewak. Well, that's been the news, sports and weather this Saturday. I'm Tokana Hasavi. Thanks for your company. You take care and stay safe. Good night. A spectacular opening to the 6th PNG Games. Governors Naru and Parkup's public appeal to stop violence in the country. And athlete George Yamak, the lone competitor at the Games.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening and thanks for your company on Sunday's news. The 6th BSP PNG Games in Leh has begun in spectacular fashion. 10,000 athletes attended the opening ceremony. The opening ceremony procession was headed by the PNG Defence Force Engineering Battalion. They were followed by the athletes decked out in their provincial colours who were welcomed by the enthusiastic Morobe crowd.
The Morobe Show is arguably the biggest event every year in Leh City, but this, the 6th PNG Games, is even bigger. 10,000 athletes, thousands more supporters, family and friends. Many have taken several days to get here. The Hela team, for example, took 2 days to get to Leh. The Prime Minister Peter O'Neill and the Sports Minister arrived just after 1 p.m. to open the games. The colours displayed this afternoon have been nothing short of spectacular. The teams came with their own war cry, each with their own provincial character proudly displayed as they marched into the stadium. Initially, a parade of horses previewed their arrival, each horseman carrying a provincial flag. The last, carrying the Papua New Guinean flag, got the loudest welcome. This party will be remembered for at least another 2 years. The organisers have pretty much set a benchmark for other PNG games that will come later. Scott White, National EMTV News, Leh.
Meanwhile, tickets for the 6th BSP PNG Games ran out days before the opening ceremony today. Thousands of people began arriving at the Sir Ignatius Kilage Stadium, hoping to buy a ticket at the gate, but were told that there were no more tickets available. It left hundreds of people angry at the Games organising committee.
Ticket ya mulu wugim planti ya lugim 7,000 ticket ya emno wanam bush game wanam second city lo papa ni almost wugim planti ticket so almost putting lo pabindo SPS one big lo soft number no man meri paimna all coming free ticket all to short ya ino gudla
sometimes to place na kam musu to putim ticket le so babla baim le straight na kam stalo bukawan na kam.
Morobe Governor Kelly Naru and NCD Governor Powis Parkup have made it a personal responsibility to raise awareness in gender-based violence. This morning, the two governors used a 4 a.m. walk from Unitec to the Sir Ignatius Kilage Stadium to make a public plea to stop all forms of violence in the country.
Powis Parkup and Kelly Naru, who have engaged in a humorous war of words over their team's possible performances at the PNG Games, began the morning of the opening ceremony with a call for more respect and understanding towards women.
So you must start the sensitiveness la.
Papua New Guinea will only be prosperous when we stop this type of culture.
The two governors used a 4 a.m. walk from Unitec to the Sir Ignatius Kilaga Stadium to draw attention to gender-based violence in Papua New Guinea.
At the community level, in the family, you must up na talk and by change to come up.
The governor's comments come at a time when Lae, the PNG Games venue, is experiencing an increase in gender-based violence. On the week before the Games, one woman was raped and killed. Her body was dumped at Lae's DCA point. 2 days ago, another woman was kidnapped and assaulted. While much talk has been on the implementation of death penalty, the attack on women and girls continue. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Lae.
And we'll have all the day's other top stories when we come back. Stay with us. Good to have you back with National EMTV News. A pioneer teacher at the Marata Primary School in Port Moresby was ruthlessly murdered last night at his home at the Marata settlement. Martin Tokemas from Kompiam Ambum district in Enga province was asleep with his youngest child when he was pulled out of the bed and hammered to death. Police will make a full investigation into the cause of death. Meanwhile, the suspects in the murder remain unknown to police and the community. Late Tokemas is survived by his 3 wives and 14 children. The Enga provincial government is breaking barriers and strengthening ties with the support from the Australian government. This comes as Enga played host to a team from the Australia High Commissioner's Foreign Affairs and Trade Division. Health and education were the key sectors engaged in the visit.
The DIFA team was warmly welcomed upon arrival at Enga's Wapenamanda Airport on Friday. Led by host Governor Peter Ipotas, the DIFA team included James Hall, Minister Councillor, Jane Rakankon's First Secretary Education, Diane Dagam, Program Manager Health, and other officials from the Australian Awards and the National Training Council. The visit comes as Enga provincial government aims to develop its human resource, improve and enhance the quality of education and health sector. A direct involvement with the Enga people after 17 years.
Working with Enga in education, and one is around quality in education. We'd very much like to be seen as a partner that can help support achieving quality in education. Quality is at the heart of the performance of the school system.
And with Enga's settling establishment of higher learning facilities, the Australian government's direct intervention complements the drive of prioritizing access to education for all.
The education programs that we've been undertaking, the visions that we've had, the government has had, and what we plan to do from now onwards.
The DFED team extended visits to Sete Abel Secondary, Sopos Adventist Hospital and Take Under Museum, forging and creating pathways for the involvement of Australian government in Enga's development agendas. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
On Friday, PNG's National Technical Response Task Force on Ebola moved forward with confirming the construction of a detection facility at the Jackson's International Airport. World Health Organization representative Dr. Boris Pavlin firmly reiterated that Papua New Guinea's chances are very low compared to other high-risk nations. He explained that 6 nurses will be stationed at the detection facility, equipped with standard protective gear to check body temperature and give traveler declaration forms. Dr. Pavlin also gave details about PNG's other entry points.
Actually, there are no regular routes that take ships from there to here. In the time that it takes them to get here, if there were an outbreak on the ship, it would have spread like wildfire within that ship, and there's no way that you could not know about it by the time they arrived. The chances of it coming to Jakarta are slightly higher because it's a much larger city with more international travel, but that's something the Indonesian authorities are working with. And again, we'd know it as soon as it happened in Indonesia, at which point we could reconsider our strategy. But for the time being, it's simply not practical to close off all of the possible ways that something bad could happen to PNG.
The United States ship Safeguard hosted a group of students from the Hohola Youth Development Center recently in Port Moresby. The Great 10 students were taken on a guided tour of the rescue and salvage vessel. U.S. Navy divers explained to the students the ship operations, demonstrated diving and rescue procedures and helped students to experience firsthand what it means to be a rescue diver. The USNS Safeguard visited Port Moresby before sailing to East New Britain Province to support a U.S. joint underwater recovery mission for missing U.S. soldiers in battlefields and air crash sites throughout Papua New Guinea and surrounding waters. More than 300 students from the International Training Institute graduated recently with certificates and diplomas in business and information technology. Although a relatively new training provider, ITI is slowly gaining recognition from the people and the government of PNG.
The International Training Institute held their 45th graduation last week at the Don Bosco Technological Institute. Attended by many parents, families and friends, the graduating students were challenged to be the agent of change in their communities with the skills they acquired. Deputy Director of the National Training Council, Stanislaus Motolova, stressed on the need for qualified, competent and reliable people in the country's workforce. He added that more skilled people are required in managerial and technical positions, and the graduates were challenged to take up the opportunity. Managing Director of ITI, Santival Kumaran, said the year has been filled with many positive things for the school, especially with the Office of Higher Education granting ITI full institutional accreditation early this year. ITI, although a relatively new institution, is growing rapidly throughout the country, offering certificates and diplomas to business and information technology education. Judith Kasek, National, MTV News.
And that's a take on our news segment tonight, but we'll bring you more sporting action in Trukai Sports after the break and more from the PNG Games in Leh City. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Well, Team Western almost missed out in taking part in the 6th BSP PNG Games in Leh City. The only team member who will represent the province will take part in the Code of Athletics. George Yamak will be the only athlete who will fly the Western provincial flag over the next 2 weeks of the Games in Leh.
Though all sporting teams have successfully arrived in Leh without any difficulties, Team Western seems to be the only team that could not be supported financially due to the lack of funds from its Western provincial government. This was portrayed in Team Western almost having totally ruled out from the games.
For us as the Western Province Committee in Leh, we were all prepared and psyched up to, support the province, but when they were not coming, it was a great letdown for us.
However, the eagerness of its only team member, George Yamak, has pulled up the team's participation in the 6th BSP PNG Games.
Government of Western Province did not come good with me, so the Sports Foundation, they helped me to come here.
Yamak was the gold medalist for Team Western in the 1,500-meter athletics at the 2012 PNG Games in Kokopo.
We want to make sure that you are proud of yourself, being yourself and representing the province, and lift up the spirit of being an athlete to represent the province.
The former athletics gold medalist is confident of defending his title and hopes to bring a gold medal back to his province, despite being the only athlete representing his team and the Western province as a whole. He is set to run his first race come Saturday. Colin Barilai, National MTV Sports, Leh.
Just 1 day out of competition, Team Milimbe has been forced to pack up and shift out, relocating from Unitec over to the Telecom College. However, there are no setbacks in place for the men's soccer team. George Bukoya, coach of the Milimbe soccer team, said the team has had enough preparations and this should not be an excuse for a poor performance. MTV's Lorraine Genia has this report from Leh.
Underdogs at the 2012 Games in Kokopo, the Milimbe soccer team is looking to reignite that glory with the hope to win gold. Despite the instability being forced from one place to another, Milimbe soccer coach George Bukoya believes his men can easily defeat opponents Morobe and Manus.
I think they really want to retain it. They've got a home crowd behind them.
We're also mindful of Manus, who had just walked home with as champions of the Besta Cup. So they're also favorites. But like everything else, we won't really underestimate any team. We look at every team as a grand final now for us.
The team's sole focus throughout their 2 months of preparations has been on rebuilding the base. And this year's games will be a perfect avenue for Team Milne Bay to improve the status of soccer within the province.
Going into this tournament now, people know a little bit more about what we can do on a football field. And I guess we've also prepared for that change of status coming into this tournament.
Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports, Lae.
And still on the PNG Games, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, who was in Lae for the opening ceremony, has made a plea to athletes to support and strengthen sporting codes. He says such an event will also prepare athletes as the country gears up for the 2015 South Pacific Games.
It is my hope that the outcomes of these games is wholesome and very positive, that the nation will witness the athletes giving their very best for their teams, for themselves, for their communities and the provinces, but most of all for our country.
To Rugby League, and for the first time in 3 weeks, New Zealand has upstaged the Kangaroos, claiming the Four Nations title last night. Here are the highlights.
Battered, bruised and weary, the Kangaroos dragged themselves home from New Zealand on a pre-dawn flight this morning.
Disappointing not winning and losing the trophy, but there are lots of positives out of it as well.
I'm just going to head away for a while and don't think about anything.
Just like the first match, they were monstered by a rampaging Kiwi pack.
They definitely outplayed us tonight, but we can't take anything away from them. They were pretty awesome.
It looked good for the Aussies early, Michael Jennings opening the scoring. Minutes later it could have been 12-0 but for Jason Nightingale's old-school ankle tap on Josh Mansour. Nightingale levelled things before the Kiwis hit the lead off the back of a devastating set of 6.
Wow.
Man of the match Sean Johnson dancing rings around the ruse.
He's away. He's going to score for sure.
They were playing off a back of a extremely powerful forward pack, which I thought we did well to maintain for most of the game. But yeah, it's a credit to the halves.
The Aussies scored inside the final 5 minutes to give them a sniff of a miracle victory before a contentious forward pass ruling denied them at the death. The Kiwis celebrating a rare tournament win.
What does it mean to you to win this match?
Yeah, it means so much to me. I've waited a long time for success in the black and white jersey.
You missed the grand final, but you got this. Does it mean a lot to you?
Oh, yeah, no, it does. The grand final, even missing out, still meant a lot that the boys got it done, and this just put the icing on the cake.
A tough victory for the Kiwis. Well, that's all we have in True Kai Sports tonight. There were the details coming up next.
Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
A short look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region. Port Moresby to look forward to cloudy periods with possible showers. In Momase, evening showers expected in Wewak, Vanimore and Lae. In the New Guinea Islands, a few showers in Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And lastly, in the Highlands region, all centres evening showers, then morning fog. And that's how we wrap up tonight's bulletin. We now leave you with the Elvis Presley impersonator from the PNG Games. I'm Tokana Hasavi. Thanks for your company again. Good night.
Just a hunker like you. 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 Hunker like you. Well, Papua New Guinea Games. The BSP New Guinea Games. I love the New Guinea Games.